We're recording. We're live. We're here with another Share Your Experience episode, and we've got Adam here to share an experience that sounds like it'll be with DMT and how that's helped transform some of his perspectives on life and reality. And yeah, I'll happily just kick it over to get a little bit of your background and your backstory, and then yeah, let's just start digging into that initial experience that you want to share, something that's impactful and transformative.
The experience that saved my life. And it's dramatic, but honestly, I was on a self-destructive path, and I open it maybe with saying, and I don't say this lightly. I was in a very, very dark place. I was suicidal, and I was ready to end it. And it wasn't a rash decision or something that was just spontaneous. It was something was thought for a while, and I knew that I needed to fix my life. And DMT, but shrooms as well, really helped get me on the right path. Not even the right path. Have the proper perspective of life, which allowed me to now be content and happy.
So what is, and set and setting has such a, kind of weird term now, but, bring us into the set and setting of, where you were at in life, how, these plant medicines or psychedelics got introduced to you, and then what that first journey was like.
So we were talking before we started recording about, hopefully sharing our stories with the desire to help others. And I had the midlife crisis that most people have. So I may have some, unique subjective points to my story, but I think it's a common story where I'm going to be 44 coming up this summer. And I just had a life worth of plaque and bullshit that was piled up on me. And it was all self-induced. I mentioned how I'm 3.5 years sober. So that was a huge part of the darkness that was clouding my life. But without getting into all the details, I was raised with a silver spoon. I had every possible advantage growing up. I went to a great college. I had multiple jobs that were making great money. I was a real estate investor as well. I've owned 15 houses. And I'm not saying that in a braggadocious way. Just letting you know, like my grandfather gave me $100,000 when I was 18 to start businesses. So I had every advantage possible. On paper, I had everything. But I was a narcissistic, mean, drunk asshole, and I pushed away everybody beautiful that was in my life. And it culminated with me getting a restraining order, which got me kicked out of my house, ended my relationship, and basically realized I needed to have this corrective path. And at the same time, I quit my high-paying job. I was making about $180,000 a year. And I don't say that, once again, bragging. I want to put it in perspective because I know now that money isn't what gets you happiness. So I quit this high-paying job, found another job. I moved out to the Cape, and everything was kind of getting back on track. But then I had somebody screw me over $900, and it sounds like an insignificant amount, and it really was. But it was a matter of purpose, and it was from a guy that I worked with. And with all the shit that was going on in my life, I was just on the verge of snapping, and I did snap, and I threatened to kill him, and I meant it. And he looked back at me and was just like, all right, I'll fucking kill you too. And it got pretty serious pretty quick. And that was on a Sunday night. That Monday morning, so I knew now that job that I had for the last year and a half, I knew I didn't have that anymore now. So but I had a bunch of money in my bank account, and I knew that I could kind of go exploring. So I lived in Rhode Island, or in the Cape at the time. And I woke up that Monday morning and I said, I'm going to drive to California to hug a redwood tree. And that's the only plan I had. So I packed a backpack full of clothes, and I got in my car, and I drove 26 hours straight, ended up in Kansas City, Missouri, spent the night there, and then really spent the next year and a half on the road. I went to like 40 states. I went to pretty much every national park. I drove to California back and forth twice. I lived on the beach for like 3 weeks, really just going on a spiritual journey. And the whole time using DMT and shrooms to kind of help sort out my shit. So it wasn't this, like, there was a 2 or 3 year period of all these things kind of destructing, and then like a slow kind of regrowth. But that pivotal moment and that experience that I'd like to share, because it really was the one that saved my life and started this lifelong lifestyle now of just listening to your body and not self-destructing. So I started with shrooms, doing 3, 4, 5, 6 gram doses. And I was doing that for several months, and I was getting really good therapeutic value. I was really kind of doing my shadow work. I was confronting all the things that I needed to confront. I put my alcohol abuse in the right place, and I was able to move forward with that. And I was really getting a good sense of myself and being comfortable in that psychedelic space. But I didn't quite get that breakthrough moment or that epiphany moment where I felt as though, all right, now I've got all the answers. And not that DMT just gives you all the answers, but I had heard a lot about DMT, and a buddy of mine came to me and he knew that I was in a dark place, and he said, I have access to this. If you want it, it's yours, and you can have it if you'd like. So I took several months to do as much research as I could. So I started with Rick Strassman, the Spirit Molecule, listened to, the basic podcast. I started looking at some of the scientific research, and I felt really comfortable with the fact that, one, it was endogenous, it was naturally produced in our own body, that it was quickly metabolized, so you didn't have to, spend an entire day doing all of these, spending an entire day. You could really incorporate the psychedelic experience quickly. So I knew it was something I wanted to do, but I wanted to make sure I was as well educated as I could. So fast forward several months, and we decided on this was the day. And I write this in my book about how I did about 50 hits that first day. And most people are like, bullshit, there's no fucking way anybody can take 50 hits of DMT. But I did it basically over an hour and a half period, and I did like 7-8 sessions, and each hit was like 7-8 hits. And the first time, like that first session, the first thing I want to say is that first hit, it instantly felt natural. It felt like I had tasted it before. I had this nasal sensation, like in the back of my nasal cavity, that was very, very familiar. As much as all my senses changed and morphed, I didn't feel scared at all. But I kind of just sat there and observed the show. And now I felt kind of comfortable with what this molecule was. So then the next one, I pushed a little bit further. The next session, a little bit further. The next, a little bit further. And I was experiencing a lot of intense energy and a lot of cool vibrations, a lot of stuff that you would see when you see like psychedelic type movies and Alex Gray artwork. But I didn't have any entity interactions. I didn't have any speaking gods or anything like that. I certainly didn't have any profound whatever experiences. Just this really cool psychedelic, time. But that last time, that eighth time or so, and I was pleading with the universe, like I need answers. Like if I don't figure this shit out, like I'm literally gonna walk off into the woods and not come back. And I was once again, I was comfortable with that. I was just like, I really need to figure some shit out. And that last session was completely different. So I took, and this was with a vape pen. It'd be tough to take that many hits if you're actually hitting with a pipe, because it's kind of hard to keep the lighter going. But this was an easily hittable vape cartridge pen. And after taking those 7-8 big rips, all of the sights and sounds completely changed. Everything went quiet. There was no like vibrations. There was no sounds. It was just this like information download from some sort of source, from entity, from and it wasn't an English speaking like teacher type. It was really just everything got put into place. And in my personal perspective, the best way for me to describe it, I know I'm kind of ranting, but then we can talk about the integration afterwards, was that my life, the way my mind works, I had all these tangential things that I was trying to connect. So all the beautiful things in my past, but then how could I fuck it up? What am I going to do in the future? How am I going to do this? And everything, and a lot of people are stuck either in the past or the future, and you're never able to be in the present now, and to be mindfully and happily content to enjoy every possible moment, to enjoy the experience, not to look for an outcome. And this energy basically was like, all right, you want to connect all your dots? And it connected the top 100 dots instantly. And then those shattered. And then it was like 1,000 dots, and then 1,000,000 dots. And it was kind of like, the point was, you stupid human, it's not a matter of connecting all of these dots, because then it was 1,000,000 and 1,000,000,000 and 1,000,000,000. And it was like, listen, we can connect all these, but that's not the point. It's to enjoy the spaces between. It's to enjoy that they're not connected. It's to really just be there and not be so fucking wrapped up in other shit other than right now. And I came out of that experience knowing that I had a big pile of shit that I needed to work out of, and certainly a lot of things in my life, including my wealth, my housing, literally was homeless. All of those things needed to be worked out. But I was so content and so happy, and that was now coming on like two years, and I've been the happiest, most content, peaceful. I'm in the best health of my life. I have amazing relationships, um, and everything is completely different because of the perspective that psychedelics allowed, which was just stop banging your head against the wall, stop running from your own fucking demons, face your shit, and if you do that, you can live a really quality life. And ultimately, that's why I wrote the book, and that's why I'm trying to share my stories, because the path isn't alcohol, it's not prescription pills, it's not hiding from difficult conversations, it's being mindfully present and understanding how beautiful you are just how you are.
Wow.
So that was it in a long-winded. And
Oh,
then
not
from
at
there,
all.
now I've done DMT hundreds of times, and once again, I don't say that in a braggadocious way. I've had countless breakthroughs. I use it as part of my sexual routine with my girlfriend. I use it as part of my holistic mental health meditation. Um, I do meditative breathing to induce natural endogenous DMT. It's now it's really just a big part of my life, naturally and externally added.
Wow. How do you usually consume DMT now, kind of ongoing, routinely?
In a regular weed pipe over a little bit of weed, and then sprinkle some on top. And I've never really weigh it, and to try to kind of visualize how much I would use. I use it, and I mentioned this in the book too, about how like a couple peppercorns. So if you could picture what a peppercorn or a BB would look like, so a decent trip or a decent session would be two BBs, or a good one, three or four. I mean, if I really want to go like with the intent to go really, really deep, I'll just coat it and just rip as much as I can. Um, but every time there's always meditation. There's always, we talked about set and setting and how that's kind of a term just kind of thrown around now, but especially with DMT, I think it's really, really important to decide, what is the intention? Is it just to see sights and sounds and to relax on a Sunday, which is perfectly fine? Is it because you're going to a concert or a rave with friends, or you're walking? That's also perfectly fine. Or is it to find some deep existential answers to questions like, what the fuck's going on in my life, and why is everything, going wrong? But whatever that intention is, if you approach it mindfully and with respect and reverence, DMT can be a life-changing molecule, and is shown to be thousands of times over.
Wow. And so maybe circling back, just curious in kind of our perception of the time chronology there. So you had this pivotal moment where you packed up all your shit and said, "I'm out of here." Um, was that was that the same time where you quit alcohol cold turkey? Was there any program or any help that you had there? Or it was just a personal decision that you held fast to?
I had So once again, I'm 44 now, so it was around 41, 42, and I had been drinking pretty much nonstop since I was 13, 14 years old. But I was a functioning alcoholic. I had the relationship, the nice houses, the job, the cars, all of those things, and I was able to mask it. But I was the type of person that was drinking 8 to 10 double IPAs a day. Starting my day with bourbon and my coffee. Any road trip or vacation I would take, I would always be hammered while I'm driving the family. And that's why, in retrospect now, I know exactly why that woman and other women had left me. I know exactly why people wanted to get away from me. It was because I was a drunk, angry mess. But what happened really was, it was New Year's Day, so I woke up in the crumpled mess in a fetal position on my parents' living room from being so hungover the night before, and I just woke up and I realized that I've wasted so much time literally being hungover, where my mind and body feels like shit, where I'm worrying about shit in my pants or puking all day, where I can't create art, I can't make love, I can't go out and make money, I can't go for a walk, I can't go to the gym, and I finally just got so sick of wasting the time, and that was really it, and it was cold turkey. But I do want to share, and we mentioned, maybe if somebody hears one thing and it resonates with just one person to help them. A buddy of mine who, and I actually just spoke with him this morning. He's 13 years sober now, and he was always trying to not tell me to get sober, but the benefits of it. And I could see it in his life that it really was the best thing that happened to him. But I was always just like, oh, I love drinking beer after a hard day at work. I love having a conversation with my dad over a beer. I love making love with a buzz on. I was justifying all of these reasons um, to try to make excuses. But I knew in my heart that something needed to change. But he said something that was just really simple and profound. He's like, he goes, clearly you're allergic to alcohol. Some people can enjoy it. Some people, it enhances their life. Some people, it's great for their social settings. It's fucking up everything. It's fucking up your relationships. It's ruining your health. I was 30, 40 pounds overweight. He's like, you're clearly allergic to it and your body doesn't handle it well. He's like, so if you were allergic to peanut butter, like a lot of people are, would you eat peanut butter? Would you have anything with the peanut butter in it? Would you have just a little bit of peanut butter? Would you, and it was kind of like, if your body's telling you you're allergic to something, just put it on the list of things you're allergic to and find something else to consume or whatever you need. But alcohol is clearly not it. And that really stuck with me, where I was like, yeah, I'm alcohol. I'm clearly not consuming this in the right way. My body's not metabolizing it in the way most people do. And it's clearly not healthy. So I'm sure some people love peanut butter, but they can't eat it because they're allergic to it. Like I loved alcohol, but I can't drink it because I was allergic to it. And it was just that simple kind of mental switch to be like, this is a poison for me. And now I can honestly say, and I'm not just saying this to soothe myself, I have zero desire at all to ever have a sip of alcohol again. And not because alcohol is bad or I think it's negative. I still enjoy the smell of it. I still make drinks for my family and friends. I have no problem being around it at all. It's just, for me, I want my consciousness expanded. I want my senses to be more sensitive, more profound. And I think with DMT and shrooms and most psychedelics, your interaction with yourself, with other people, with all types of energy is just so profoundly expanded and enriched when you're on psychedelics that's why people say these experiences are more real than real, because you have not 5 senses, you have 25 senses. You don't have 10 data points, you have 1,000 data points. And I know I want to go into these spaces to explore myself, my place in this humanity, this consciousness, this whatever the hell it is. And I want to be an active participant, not a drunk, hungover mess, or somebody that's pilled out and using prescription pills just to zombie themselves and just, keep the blinders on. Everything is just whatever. And that's not a way to live.
So that expanding consciousness, I'd tie that into your perceptions of reality. What's more real than real? Tell me about that. What have you explored over the last couple of years that is become part of your own personal dogma?
So, and I think not only my experiences, but I think anybody looking into DMT really should start with Strassman. And I'm not promoting it necessarily anybody or author of their books, but the book, The Spirit Molecule. And that's why he named it Spirit Molecule, because I think he had 60 volunteers in that study. And it was over a 5-year period where they came out and they were just so profoundly changed about their position or who they are as a being, as an entity. And it really is spiritual, not necessarily religious. It's not like you're going to see Jesus or Buddha or whatever specific God that you study or resonate with. It's just that that there's a connection to source, that there is some sort of greater energy, and that you all are one. So that most people are self-centered, selfish. Like I said, I was a narcissistic, belligerent, mean, alcoholic. Like all of those things clouded my ability to love myself and have honest conversations with myself. Remove all of those things and then add psychedelics, and you're really able to know who you are, which at the core, and I know there's some people out there, and I say shitty people, it's really just mentally sick people that have to remove some of the clutter or plaque in their lives. But we are all inherently beautiful beings. We are all naturally supposed to love and be empathetic and sympathetic. And when you experience the profoundness of a DMT experience and a breakthrough like that, you can't help but love yourself more naturally and innately, but then that just conveys to everybody that you see. So I mean, right now, I went from making all this money doing all these high end jobs to now I'm a landscaper making $20 an hour, a completely opposite end of the spectrum. But all day, petting puppies and kissing babies and playing with bumblebees and looking at flowers, and just every day, all day, every interaction I have with every person, whether it be a line in the market or a customer or a client or my girlfriend, is just full of being mindfully present, being there, being absorbed in all of the energies that are around me, being happy about the experience, whether it be good or bad, because I can learn from it. And it's just, it's made every day amazing. Like, it's corny to say, but I go to bed every night with tears of gratitude, and I say my good night prayers, and I'm just so grateful and I'm so happy when I have nothing. Like I went from having all of the material goods, all the vacations, the cars, the houses, the women, like all of that shit, to literally having debt, living in my parents' basement, like screwed on paper. And I'm the happiest I've ever been, because I know all that other stuff will just naturally come back. And now I'll be a whole person. But I wake up, I say thanks to the sun, which once again may sound childish or foolish, but I wake up and just say thank you for every day to have the sun hit me, to be able to take a breath. That first cup of coffee is so great. The bowl of weed and the conversation with my mom in the morning is so enriching. That the smell of grass and and then that just expands on to now at 7:28, and I'm enjoying a cranberry juice and a great conversation with you, and it's going to continue getting more awesome. And then tomorrow and then tomorrow and tomorrow, as opposed to my lifestyle before. Get a six pack on the way home. You're drinking 3 or 4 beers on the way home, and then I would get like McDonald's or Burger King to have like fast food breath instead of beer breath, to think my girlfriend at the time wouldn't smell the beer. Like, so now you're drinking booze, and then you're putting shit food in, and then you're not going to the gym because you got, and it's like, it's a horrible, horrible way to live, as opposed to living with this like childish joy. Um, and it has nothing to do with age or sex or position in life. It has to do with just being comfortable in your own skin. And I think psychedelics do the exact opposite of what is prescribed by society, which once again is the pills, the the alcohol, the running the rat race. And I also, and maybe would have started this, I don't think psychedelics are for everybody. DMT is certainly not for everybody. Um, I had one of the best compliments from a friend of mine that read the book, who's never done any psychedelics, doesn't smoke, doesn't drink, and he goes, when I read this book, he goes, I realized that I don't ever have to do DMT to get to that level of happiness that you have to. He goes, all I have to do is just be content, to be mindfully present, to be to meditate, to take the time to be with yourself, and that's exactly the point. You can get to this level of contentment in many ways. Um, Psychedelics, I think, is just that quick, abrupt burst that some people need, before the catastrophic breakdown, before you threaten to kill somebody like I do, or before you get the knock on the door from a constable saying you got a restraining order against you. So your house is gone, your relationship's gone, your business is gone, like everything within the knock of a door, um, literally wiped out in 10 seconds of my life. Like, what the fuck? But all of that was because I had blinders on, where now I feel like I'm so engaged and present with everything and every interaction that, um, no, not that I won't be surprised by people's actions, but nothing's going to sway me off my path now. Not money, not relationships, not status, not a job, not a car. Uh, because I'm part of the universe. I'm part of consciousness. I'm part of this awesome experience of humanity. And I know I'm kind of rambling, but another part of the beauty of psychedelics is that you have a complete lack of fear of death. And that seems to be a very, very common statement, is that I'm not at all fearful of the next transmutation of my energy, because I know there will be one. And we can maybe get into actually have like DMT entity experiences, because I've had a whole range of those that have kind of shifted and morphed over the years, where it kind of not ended, but the culmination is that I've interacted with my future self, where I feel like I'm doing this diagnostic check on myself from the future, and that when I go into DMT space, like, it allows access to my conscious energy, and I know that whatever, there's parts of me that are out there remaining that are in a time space different from now. Which, once again, maybe anybody that hasn't smoked DMT, like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? But that's where that's kind of morphed to.
Yeah, one of the recent calm revelations and things that you just start meditating on, for me recently, was this idea and notion that time and space, it kind of reverts back to this idea that, like the source, right? We are creator, we are co-creating, and, and ultimately consciousness is creating, and this idea that, like boil it down to a simple statement, like we created time, we created space, like the year 2024 means nothing, right?
It's a mental
It's,
construct, yeah.
it's this, exactly, it's this framework that we created to then exist in and function within, and it, and then one other idea of that I was listening to on another podcast recently was this notion that, like within the universe, the Earth, for example, is so much bigger in time than it is in space, and like that, kind of playing with that XY axis of time and space, and like, us as humans are so much more, bigger and dense in time than we are in space, than, like a fly, for example, kind of looking at things in a slightly different lens. Yeah,
And
kind of starts
luckily
breaking
now,
your brain a little bit in a fun way.
but it's starting to get the scientific respect that it deserves. These concepts aren't just you and I talking, being like, oh yeah, these two psychonauts are jiving back and forth. There's really solid research, and whether it be quantum physics and um, all just basic. I say basic. It's really complex stuff. But when you have 100, 1,000, like we probably all listen to the same podcast and the same experts and read the same books, and it seems like there's this common thread that everybody is stating, which in essence is consciousness and energy and vibration. Is that's the real meat and substance of it. It's not just this materialistic reductionist view of stuff, including space and time. It's way greater than that, and not only the DMT space and shrooms and just psychedelics in general, I think are getting the research and respect. But there's a lot of research now that going into lucid dreaming and near end of death, near death and end of life experiences. People that have epileptic seizures, people with migraine headaches that have this like aura field around them. There's many ways of getting into an altered state of conscious. I'm saving up money right now to go to the Monroe Institute. They have the basically like hemisync concept where your brain hemispheres, they play different frequencies of sound in each side of your brain, and it kind of has this effect where you're able to tap into some really, like, my understanding is it's very DMT like, which is why I want to go to try to compare the two. But it's like there's real science and real money and brain power going into altered states of consciousness. And then the hard question of consciousness, is it actually something that's being received and our brain is receiving it, or is our brain projecting it? I think that's a debate that can go back and forth, and that there's points on both sides. But I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but the effects are real. Like the experiences that you and I are having. I spoke with some guy the other day, and it was like, oh, I actually met God and these two frog-head lizard people, and I shook hands with Jesus, but it saved his life. He got off drugs. He started a business. He's got a beautiful wife and kid. Like, all of these amazing things happened from this experience. Now, a cynic would be like, oh, that was just his brain, on drugs, and it was all, he was hallucinating. Maybe, but the effects are real. The actual change is real. And the ripple effect of the lives that he's affecting now are like, that's all real. So it's a matter of semantics. Where did it come from? Did it come from you? Did you generate it? Did you receive it? It doesn't matter. It saved my life. It saves other people's lives. It completely corrects paths, and kind of like take it to the next like level. I really think it's going to be part of the next consciousness shift or evolutionary stage of the human species, because no species just stays status quo. And our right now we're in this destructive kind of thing where we're hoarding resources, we're ruining the planet. There's so many people that are medicated and sick and mentally sick, and um, it has to change. It can't be about hate and divisive speech and nastiness and racism and sexism and bigotry and all. Like, it's horrible. It's disgusting. I don't, I don't watch TV. I don't watch the news. I don't watch politics, any of that shit, because it's just, that's not how humans need to be interacting. I speak with my inner circle. I speak with people like you. I'm sure people that you've been talking to for now, a decade, where it's like, no, this is what the human species is. Let's help the neighbor. Let's hand the helping hand. Let's give the shoulder to lean on. Let's bring people up, not bring them down. And you do that for a few generations, and you're not going to have little kids being hungry in the streets of like I live in Rhode Island, the tiniest state, and there's so many fucking homeless and hungry kids in Rhode Island. Like, how is that even a possible? How is that a statement that's coming out of our mouth right now? Like, it makes you ashamed to be a human. But I guarantee you, if the leaders of the state did an ayahuasca session, or had some profound shroom trip, they would figure out a way to feed the freaking kids. Like, I mean, that should be base one of living like as a human. But we can't even get that shit right. So something's got to give.
Talk to me about your relationships over the past, couple years. How has that transformed? You said you had kids.
I don't have kids. I was fortunate. The women I was with, I raised them for 7, 8 years. So I did have, what I considered step kids that were ripped away from me. So, I mean, I did have beautiful relationships with kids, but no, I don't have any children of my own. Not that I know of, anyway.
Yeah, I'm just kind of
But
curious how things have developed. Have you had or seen any kind of like repaired relationships or healing past wounds and things like that, or
no, I'd
just
love to
kind
talk to that about that, and a great question, because I think it's it comes to doing that shadow work that we all need to do. And in my particular case, I really needed to embrace the feminine aspects of my own self, but then the aspects of feminine beauty that I was pushing against. So I had 3 long-term relationships. One that I mentioned, with that culminated with the house being taken away and all that horrible. But it was a couple other ones as well where I was just not. I was treating them horribly. But and I'm not making excuses, but it was because I was treating myself horribly. I wasn't respecting myself. I was not listening to myself. I wasn't making. I didn't think I was worthy. I didn't think I was any of those things. Where this having my own self-worth being realized has allowed me now to fully embrace and see the beauty of other people, and especially the feminine. So specifically my relationships with women have become incredibly enhanced, sexual and non-sexual. So just non-sexual. My relationship with my mom, my sister, and my 2 beautiful nieces have just, it's, I look at them as, we're talking about how we're all this part of the same sauce, part of the same energy. I look at as women as, all part of the same archetypal motherly energy, and it's beautiful and it's wonderful, and it's so different from what we have as a male, it's not contradictory, it's completing, it's additive, it's not subtractive. And I was able to see all of those things in those women and able to appreciate it, and then it really expanded into my relationships, I guess not necessarily just sexually, but intimately with other women, where now I'm not like open poly relationships, but I'm not with any one particular woman. However, that woman Alicia that wrote in my book, she's my mate, my partner, my psychonaut explorer. We've been together now for 2.5 years. We've had the most profound, deep conversations about everything. We have such an appreciation and gratitude towards one another. We have such a desire to pull out each other's uniqueness and to share, and we do DMT quite often together, and we share those experiences. But it allows the conversation and connection to be so deep, where you can't have surface fake shit. It's not like you're sitting at a bar stool and everybody's talking about the weather or taxes or the price of ham or some bullshit. It's like you're talking about what's God, what does it mean, what you are the door, we're in the middle, like all of these profound, deep conversations that are happening. And it only builds trust. It only builds more connection and more understanding. So that way, if there are times where there's moments of difference, and in my case with her, there really aren't. Um, you're able to just approach it with a mutual respect and understanding and have a mature conversation about it. So that just, and then even when you're standing in line, like I said, in the market, you can be pissed off that you're going to be there for 8 minutes, or take the opportunity to either interact with the person near you or appreciate something. And that conveys, as opposed to putting off this negative energy. Um, but then, maybe, and I don't know if this is necessarily the venue or the topic, or we can have another conversation, but, sex and psychedelics. So I actually just wrote an article about this, and I have an article, a chapter in the book about transcendental sex, about how, so actually using DMT while being intimate. And I have a story about that, how, like, the first time it went completely not the way I expected, and it wasn't this like fantastic fireworks, like, oh, this is going to be amazing. It was like, oh shit, like everything had to be readjusted. And that's why I go over that story in my book too, is because I think it can help people. Once that was kind of overcome, and then we kind of came up with a game plan, we use it not every time that we're intimate, but we'll take a vape pen and just take 1 or 2 hits. So not that you can really like microdose DMT, but I mean, you can take 1 or 2 hits and be kind of, out there, as opposed to doing a full blast. But we'll pass it in the middle of being intimate for, an hour, 2, 3, and just kind of have that be part of our space, where everything is morphing and blending, and your hearts are beating at the same, rate, and you're breathing the same breaths. And it's just an experience that, just like sitting in a dark room by yourself on 6 grams of shrooms, is way different than just sitting in a dark room by yourself. Like, making love to your partner when you're enhanced in that psychedelic, sensory overload. If you're prepared for it and you're ready, if once again, if everything is done with the right intention in the right environment, it can be absolutely beautiful. And then once again, how does that not translate into becoming closer and more in love and more connected and more just, holy shit, like way, I mean, how many people just get home from work, sit in front of the TV, watch the same routine of shows, just click through the shit, have no interaction, no talking. They're not even, how was your day, honey? Let alone 2 hours of sex on DMT, and then an hour of integration talk, and then you wake up in the morning and you're like, what the fuck just happened? Like, and you do that over the course of a year, 2, 3, 5. That's going to be a pretty strong relationship.
How about any previous relationships before, like, before the transition phase?
It was all, and it sucks to say this, but it was me being a narcissistic, mean, alcoholic jerk. And
Like bridges are still burned, or have you seen any,
well, there was a
any
3-year
healing there?
restraining order on the last one, so after that panned out, I haven't reached out. But I say that actually, I'm friends with my initial. This is fucked. As you become 44 years old, you have these. I was with a woman for about 8 years in my 20s, who we were engaged. We were, supposed to get married. She recently came back in my life, and I work. One of the jobs I have is I work for the same company as her, and we get to see each other every so often. And it's amazing to be able to even put that in perspective. So with the humility of having time pass, with the understanding of, being able to look at her pictures of her husband and her beautiful kids with happiness, with genuine, like, I'm so happy that this is happening. Um, but that's only because of my new chapter. I hate to say it, the relationships that I had before were all self-serving. They were all to try to get something out of, and whether it just be to look on paper like I had it all, like I had the cute girl with the cute butt, or I had the whatever, it was never, like I just mentioned, the interaction I had with Alicia, like, that's so not surface. It really is on a deep, profound level. So because of that, I won't let any cracks. And and once again, the anecdotal stories sometimes do really resonate. That particular woman, and this is kind of one of those things where it's like, man, don't. If I was this stupid, please, gentlemen, don't be this stupid. That woman I was with, the beautiful woman, 2 beautiful daughters. We had a routine right when we first started meeting, but every night that we slept together, I would take her earrings out. Right, a simple task, very easy. So it takes 30 seconds. Remove her earrings. It's a nice kind of intimate way of saying goodnight. You get to look at each other's eyes. So you do that for a year and a half, 2 years maybe. But then it's like, well, you skip one night because you're tired, or I'm going to bed and whatever. You can take out your earrings. It went up over a couple times where she asked me to take out her earrings, and somehow, some way, I kind of gave her some shit about it and didn't. And then she was like, "All right, you know what? Screw you. I'll never ask you to take out my earrings again." And for some reason, that stayed with me, because like, how many guys would love to have a woman of this caliber, this what, looking at them being like in bed with you saying, "Please take my earrings out." Like, it would be most men's dreams. And here I am, what, too tired because I was out drinking and eating freaking McDonald's. Like, it was just, that will never ever happen again. Where now, once again, when I see Alicia, it's, "Please let me rub your shoulders, let me take off your shoes, let me pull out, let me open the door for you, let me compliment you on how you look." Like, just the simple things that, and it's not about being, chivalrous or being like old school. It's just, I would do that for you. And honestly, like, I would compliment you on how you look or how you smell. I would give you the best seat. I would give you the first hit of the joint. If it, like, it's just, treat people first, and then everything just kind of comes back now. Where, I don't have the monetary wealth that I had, but I have the love and respect and admiration of a core group of family and friends that I've had for a while, and then the new relationships that I fostered because of sharing my raw stories. I feel like I've got a lot of wealth and value in other ways that I didn't have before. And man, I wouldn't trade that for anything, because all that other shit, and I don't care how secure you think you are with your job, your wife, your health. I mean, you can have a freaking heart attack or a stroke, and now everything is completely changed. But if you have a sense of self, and if you have inner contentment and joy, and you know that it's not coming from some external source, but it's truly coming from you, that's a powerful way to live. And it radiates into every aspect of your life. And like, once again, like, man, if everybody had that type of energy, where could this planet go? What could we explore? What could we do? And I don't know. That's why if that's why you said you started this, or that's why this platform is here, to try to just get one more data point and have, like you said, if I can have 50 or 100 ayahuasca stories, 50 or 100 or 1,000 DMT stories, or where, how many people do you need to hear say, "This saved my life, this corrected a path, this beat addiction, I saw God," whatever hyperbolic statement you want to make, they're true. And people aren't saying it to try to get attention or to sell books, or to, people are, or to get podcast views. People are saying it because it's real and it helps. And man, I want to share with my loved ones. I definitely don't want to see people with the bags under their eyes because they're drunk and hungover, and 10 in the morning you can smell the vodka on their breath, and it's like, like, that's not going to do anything good for anybody.
Man, it was a pleasure, and just so honored to have connected with you, man. Appreciate you coming on the platform. Everything that you're sharing is a beautiful vulnerability story, and yet again, you know, at the end of the day, you know, you categorize the experiences, like you said, DMT or ayahuasca experience or this or that, but ultimately, again, it's a humanity experience. It's a story of humanity, and just another shade and another flavor, and
And there's a lot we mentioned before we started recording too, about how it's important that people, and once again, I think you're a handsome guy. I'd like to think I'm relatively handsome as well. Like, but guys that look like us, like the whatever, like this misfit kind of group of whatever, that isn't the normal whatever chunk of society. Like, it's really important to study the researchers and the doctors and the scientists that are doing this medically scientifically based work. But it's really important for us and people like you've had, and we were looking at a couple of your prior guests and their stories. And it's really important to hear the story of people that look like us, talk like us, that have been through it, that have had the highs, the lows, and it's really important to get that out there in addition to the scientific data, because enough people will hopefully have confidence or comfort sharing it because they would think it'll help another person. And then that tabooness will hopefully wear off, where it's not something that's looked upon or frowned upon or shunned, where it's no, well, this person is expanding their consciousness to try to better themselves, to try to better humanity, to try to better their community. Like, there's very little that I see coming out of the psychedelic space that is negative or driven. with bad intention, other than maybe some profit driven on some of the, but I mean, that is what it is. But I think from a personal level, I think it's where humans are supposed to go. I think that's how we find out like answers to who built the pyramids and aliens and like Atlantis and all that shit. It's it's not by whatever getting more
Sounds
money.
like we got plenty of future discussions on our hands.
Yeah, there's a few rabbit holes we can go down. But yeah, and we kind of touched about it. But all like past religions talk about like the hermetic knowledge that says like everything's mental. So like you brought that up, how it all starts in there, and there's so many references to states of expanded consciousness in our history that show that these are some of the most profound moments in our species, and we've kind of gone away from that the last say few hundred years, maybe even more. Where now I think we're able to explore that space, have conversations like this, be comfortable writing books and having podcasts, and I'm really excited to see what this is going to be in 5, 10 years, 15 years. Like imagine what your catalog is going to look like in 5 years, in a year from now, even how many more interesting people you can interact with. So I'm excited to be part of it. I'm honored that you asked me to come on and share your story. And, if it can help one person, then, man, it was certainly worth my 50 minutes or whatever it is. And I'm here if you need anything else as well.
Man, deep gratitude there. And let me close by just sharing back in whatever religious days or religious spiritual days of mine, there's one beautiful lady who preached this message of love. And amongst all the plaque that's on Christianity and religion, she would die on this sword of everyone wants to change the life of a million people. Influencers these days, the message just resounds because all these Gen Zers want to influence a million people. They want to have a million followers, and Christians want to evangelize nations. And she was like, just stop for the one person in front of you. Have that connection.
You just gave me goosebumps because that's it. Like that's it. And if everybody does that, that's it.
Just stop.
Sorry, not to cut you off, but really just gave me goosebumps because it's such a simple, profound statement. But yeah, you don't need to have just the person in the mirror and in front of you, and that's it.
Yep.
You're good.
Yep. So that's that's what this platform has been about as well. Is hey, if one person's watching or a million people are watching, it's the conversation is worth having, and and just to have the conversation with us is worth it. We're just clicking a record button.
Oh, and I talked about my nieces at the beginning. So what happens in 5 years from now? They're having a mental health issue, or they're having a battle with alcohol. Maybe they'll look back and be like, "Oh, let me check out what my Uncle Adam said about this 5 years ago." So it's important to have this, these records of these conversations, because I know that's what got me back on. Like, I don't want to. It was a lot of hard work, and it was the psychedelics that were the catalyst for sure. But it was prior experiences and stories from other people that gave me the confidence to move forward with it, to give me the intellectual curiosity to keep exploring the answers, or to keep looking for those answers. And it's important, for whatever small part we each are playing in it, I think it's important to at least move it forward and not let it just be stagnant, and definitely not let it move back. And man, let's just keep doing it. And like I said, I feel like I have a couple people that you probably already know of, probably several of them, but I'll shoot you a message after this with a couple people that you may want to look into that I think you'd have a great conversation with.